Hey there, fourth graders. As I promised, we are back with our second way of multiplying big numbers. Previously, we practiced the standard algorithm, which is the standard way of multiplying, but I'm going to teach you two other ways that you can use to multiply those big numbers that we're going to be faced with in the next week. This method is called the distributive method. So my class here, my fourth hour class here, as well as you at home, are going to copy down what I write on my page. So title this the distributive method. So our distributive method means we're sharing the love. We're distributing out different pieces of the equation to make it easier. Same if I have 100 papers to grade at home. Then to make my job easier, maybe I distribute that out into groups of 25 and have my friends help me. And then we're each doing a little bit less. We're making it easier for ourselves. Same with this distributive method. We're going to break it down, distribute out the work to make each step a lot easier than it seems. So when we're doing distributive method, first thing we're going to do is set up our problem. Now for this one, we are going to multiply a new number. When I point to you, please tell me one digit that we're going to use. All right, get one digit locked in your head. Ready? 7.
9.
9. One digit number. 6. And I need one more digit. One more. I see so many hands. Yes, sir. 5. Okay, so this is our first problem. Copy this down. This is our example problem. Now, when we're doing our distributive method, again, we want it set up like this, but we're going to break it down in a little bit of a different way. And I'm going to tell you what steps we're going to use to do that. So step number 1, we are first going to break both factors into expanded form. So we're going to use expanded form to rewrite our question. Now, can anyone tell me what is the symbol we use to chunk numbers together? And so we know which way we are working with them, whether we're adding, subtracting, multiplying, or dividing. If I have a lot of numbers in a question, I use something to chunk it together so I know what pieces to look at when.
Parentheses.
Parentheses. So we're going to use our parentheses so we keep this number separate from our second multiplier, our second factor. So when we do our expanded form, I'm going to take my first number, my first factor is 796. And I'm going to write that in expanded form. Who can help me turn this into expanded form? What comes first? Just 7? 100. All right, what comes next? What's next? Yes, ma'am.
90.
Plus 90. After that, plus 6. So there's my first part. I used my expanded form to break up this number into smaller pieces. Now, I'm going to be multiplying this number, this value, by the expanded form of my other factor. Now, how would I write the number 5 in expanded form? 5, silly. Yep, 5. So this is my first step. I turned my equation into expanded form. So far, do I have any questions? We're doing good?
Yeah. Yes.
Question, ma'am?
How to multiply it if it says additions?
Well, then we wouldn't be multiplying it. If it had an addition sign, we would just be adding it together. So now watch what we do next, and I think this might answer your question, okay? So first we do our expanded form. Then we are going to distribute the multiplier. All right, what does that mean? Let me show you. we are going to share the 5 with every value in my expanded form. We're sharing the love. We don't want 5 to just hang out with the 6, then the 700 and the 90 will be jealous. We got to make sure it's fair for everybody, so we share the 5 with all pieces of my expanded form. So I'm using my parentheses again so I don't get confused, and I'm going to start by doing 700 times 5. So I did 700 times the 5 that was my factor. Now, you at home and you in my class, I want to see if you can figure out what the next piece might look like. If we're using that same method, and we first multiplied our first value in the expanded form by 5, what do you think we're going to do next? Write it on your paper. Hopefully you at home are doing the same thing. We're thinking really hard over here to make sure we understand this. Do I have any volunteers who can tell me what you think we're going to do next? What do you think is going to happen next? Yes, Amy.
I think you're going to do 90 times 5 with the parentheses around it, and then 6 times
Beautiful.
5.
Beautiful. So he says we're going to do 90, my second value, times my factor, 5. And then we have one more digit in my expanded form. I do not want to forget about it. So what am I going to do next, Justin?
You are going to 6 times 5.
Yes, I'm going to do 6 times 5. So while those of you who are writing catch up writing, and if those of you might be confused, let's explain it one more time. When we first turn it into expanded form, we break our numbers and stretch them out for a value for each place value. Then we multiply each little piece of my expanded form by my multiplier. In this case it was 5. So we did 700 times 5, 90 times 5, and 6 times 5. So instead of doing 5 times the whole number, 796, now we're just doing 5 times one number at a time. How do we feel about that so far? We're feeling okay? All right, can I answer any questions for you before we move on? Yes?
Do you add it when you're done?
We might. I think I have some good guesses, but let's see. I'm going to walk you through it step by step. So, now that we've distributed our multiplier, our third step is to multiply. Now, we practiced this today in our Do Now in class. When we are multiplying by numbers that end in zeros, we can make this a lot easier for ourselves by using our rule of zeros. Who can tell me how I would multiply 700 times 5? How would we do that?
7 times 5 and add 0.
Perfect. So we're going to do 7 times 5, which gives me 35. And then I'm going to add the 2 zeros that were in 700. So I add 2 zeros to that number. So my first value is 3,500. Then I'm going to add that to my next value. How am I going to multiply 90 times 5?
5 times 9, and then you see the 0, and then cross it out and add it to 45.
Perfect. We do 9 times 5, which is 45, and then we add 1 0 to that answer because there was 1 0 in my factors. Now my last one, 6 times 5. There's no zeros, so I'm just going to figure out what 6 times 5 is. Who can tell me? 6 times 5. Oh, I got so many hands, it's hard to choose. Yes?
30.
30. All right, so now I have my pieces of my answer. but it's not my total answer. If I asked you to multiply something and you gave me this as an answer, you're making me do half the work. I gotta still figure out what that means. When I ask you to multiply something, I want you to give me that final answer all wrapped up in a bow, complete, ready to go. So now I want to ask Miss Rayo, what do you think I'm going to do next?
Then add those up all together.
Beautiful. We're going to add it up.
But you can't do it Multiplier style because first there's big numbers and there's too many numbers to add them up together.
Perfect. She said we're not going to do it Moana style. We're not going to do it like this line where the sun meets the sea. We're going to do it vertically because we have a lot of numbers, we have a lot of different place values, and we have some big numbers. So when we line it up, we push everything to the ones column and make sure it's lined up perfectly. Now if you have trouble with this, this is the trick we use in class. We're going to turn our paper sideways and then use our blue lines to help make sure our columns are perfect. So I'm going to start with 3,500. That was my first value. 450 was next, so I keep that in line with my ones place. And last was 30. Notice how each of my blue lines on my lined paper is separating a place value. So I know I've lined it up perfectly and I'm not going to make any silly adding mistakes. Now I add it up. 0 plus 0 plus 0 is?
0.
0 plus 5 plus 3 is?
8.
5 plus 4 is?
9.
3 plus nothing is?
3.
3. We got some silly folks in this class. All right, so our final answer, once we've multiplied 796 times 5, we get our answer. And that final answer is 3,980. There we go. Are there any questions about our distributive method? Feeling okay about it? Yes. We can check it with the way, but we're going to do that next video. All right, so now that we've covered this, I want you to practice on your own. Use some dice, make up some problems, have your baby sister, pick some random numbers, whatever you got to do. Check it with the calculators to see if you're correct, and use your notes to make sure you're following step by step. So now we've learned the standard algorithm and our distributive method. We have one more method to learn for multiplication. So check out the next video to make sure you know all three, and then we're going to practice together when we come back to school. I'll see you soon. Bye.